Hello, guys. Today we are going to be talking about the good stuff, some vintage baseball cards. Little Willie Mays, Mickey Mantle, Hank Aaron. Stick around. Hello to all my sports card collector, investor, all of my collectibles friends out there in the universe. I hope that everybody is having a great Wednesday. It's hump day. We're halfway through the week. I hope everyone is doing amazingly well. Had a lot of fun last night on the Comeback Card Investor Brad's show talking with Ryan, Card Collector 2. If you missed that one, check that out on his channel, on Brad's channel, the Comeback Card Investor. That was a good time. Talking with Ryan, just kind of getting his take on a lot of different things as a big time shop owner and social media guy. It was great to talk and learn from him. All right, guys, I have been getting more requests about baseball cards. A lot of like, man, I just wish you talked a little bit more about baseball cards. And granted, while I'm not a big time baseball card collector, I really do appreciate the sport, but especially the vintage stuff. The modern stuff is kind of like meh for me. Yes, I am watching the World Series with my son, but am I into kind of the newer players? Not really as much. I really appreciate the history of the game. It's the Field of Dreams type stuff that I'm into. You know, I like a lot of the old time baseball history, the origins of the sport, etc. And so we're going to look back at some kind of the older superstars, not way back, but we're going to kind of go to the 50s and 60s with some of these guys. Willie Mays, Mickey Mantle, Hank Aaron are some of the most beloved, long time kind of, you know, the greats, the baseball greats. And so we're going to talk about some of these cards. And I purposely picked out cards that are not necessarily rookie cards or important cards that are kind of within the range of you know, from a price point. Now, look, some of them are expensive, don't get me wrong, but we're not talking about $100,000 cards. A lot of the sports card news stuff nowadays, it's all about record sales and everything else. And the reality is while that's fun to kind of watch and see kind of what's going on and the rare stuff selling, the majority of hobbyists aren't buying that stuff. So I thought it would be kind of cool, you know, for those that are maybe looking to get into some graded vintage baseball cards, what are some options? And we're going to look back to and just kind of look at pricing, some recent pricing compared to where these cards were 2 years ago. So we're going to look at some data sets. And keep in mind, this is not every single sale of these cards recently or over the last 2 years. I'm going to use Card Ladder for this one. They do capture a lot of the sales, but of course, just like with any data tool, it's not going to capture every sale. It's not going to capture in-person sales, card show sales, every single online sale through social media group, you know, Facebook sales, etc. So take it with a grain of salt, but it does give us kind of some data points to work with, something to look at here. So first off, we're going to dive right in and look at Willie Mays stuff. And I kept this kind of to be consistent, PSA 6s. Everything is a PSA 6 that I'm looking at, just because if you go up above PSA 6, a lot of times you're seeing very limited transactions, and it's difficult to get an idea of kind of that data. It can vary greatly if you're going above a 6. So, all right, so let's look at some Willie Mays stuff. Now, on the graph, you're going to see, okay, some squiggly lines. The blue on the graph is 1954 Topps. Really cool set. I love 1954 Topps, just the look of them. 2 years ago, Willie Mays in a PSA 6 54 Topps was sitting at right at about $480. There were sales in that range. Recent sales now are at $1,680 for that 1954 Topps. The purple on the graph represents 1958 Topps in a PSA 6. 2 years ago, $174 sale. And then recently you've seen a sale right at about $660, $662. So you see, like, it's funny because a lot of people talk about vintage as like, you know, vintage is that slow and steady growth. You know, it grows over time and this and that. But vintage has seen massive increases over the last 2 years, and it has not retreated back near as much as some of the modern, ultra modern stuff. So I think that's something to keep in mind. It did still see surges in the same way that modern, ultra modern did. It's just a lot of the iconic players, a lot of the pricing didn't retreat back the same way that the ultra modern stuff did in many cases. All right, the green on the graph, 1957 Topps Willie Mays in a PSA 6. 2 years ago, $182 sale. Recent sale, $550. And this is, again, it's just to kind of give you an idea. If you were going to go out today, you know, and try to find one of these, what would be kind of the price points, kind of give you an idea of the price points. Red on the graph is 1960 Topps Willie Mays in a PSA 6. 2 years ago, $110 card, and recently a sale went at $492. All right, let's move over to the main man, the big sales guy. When I was in the National, they told me that there was dealers that told me, and this was a few different dealers, that they sell 20 Mickey Mantles for every one Willie Mays. And I've heard a lot of baseball people say that Willie Mays, while Mickey Mantle is kind of a big-time player for a huge franchise in the Yankees, that Willie Mays was really the best overall player in comparison to Willie Mays. Now, of course, argue with me if you want in the comments. I'm not a baseball guy, so I'm not trying to sit here and make that statement. I'm just telling you what I've heard from baseball people that know a lot more about baseball than I do. But I just thought that was interesting that Willie Mays being outsold at the National by and this was a few different dealers that were basically saying they just sell out of Mantle stuff. They can't keep it. And Willie Mays stuff, not as much. So I thought that was interesting. All right, we're going to look at a variety of Mantles. So the gray on the graph is 1960 Topps in a PSA 6. 2 years ago, $560.96. A recent sale went at $1,375. And actually, just kind of going back, if we're comparing to what I just said from the Willie Mays graph, 1960 Topps, same set in a PSA 6, $110 compared to the Mantle at $560 2 years ago. $492 for the Mays, $1,375 for the Mantle. Kind of gives you a little bit of an idea. Again, one set, one price point, but just shows you in many cases the Mantles are just way, way higher. All right, purple on the graph, 1961 Topps Mantle. 2 years ago, $586. Recent sales, about double that, $1,150. Red on the graph, 1959 Topps. 2 years ago, it's $736. Recent sale at $999 for a 1959 Topps. That was actually one where the pricing was a little closer. It was close considering that we're talking 2 years ago. Yellow on the graph, 1963 Topps Mantle. 2 years ago, $362 sale. Recent sale of that one at $830. Orange on the graph, 1964 Topps Mantle in a 6, PSA 6, $278 2 years ago. Now sitting here recently at about $830. A lot of these cards approaching $1,000 or a little bit around that $1,000 range. And actually, too, just a sidebar, Ryan from Breakout Cards had a really nice Mantle. 55 Bowman with the oak wood, the TV background one that I love that set. I've been wanting a Willie Mays. I can't talk. I've been wanting a Willie Mays in that set, a 55 Bowman. And he had, I believe, a PSA 4. I believe he had it for about $1,000, maybe $1,200 for the Mantle. And I was talking to him about that. I didn't buy it off of him, but again, that was just to kind of give another example here that I was just thinking of while I was talking. Blue on the graph, 1968 Topps Mantle, $231 2 years ago. A recent sale at $675. And then the teal on the graph, kind of more of a lighter blue teal color, 1967 Topps Mantle 2 years ago. $263 in a PSA 6, recent sale at $528. And again, with these types of cards, something to remember too is these prices are going to vary based on how they look. We're talking about PSA 6s can look very different from one to the other. It's with vintage, you can have 4s that look as good as 6s. It all depends on, what do you prioritize? Centering, surface, corners, edges, what are you kind of prioritizing? Because there's some 4s that look better than 6s. So that's another kind of fun element of vintage cards and the grades is just trying to figure out kind of which, where you can find maybe, I wouldn't call it bargains, but just where can you find value among the grades. We'll finish out with Hammerin' Hank Aaron, and we'll start with his 54 Topps in a PSA 6. This was a card that 2 years ago was just over $3,000. There was a recent sale at $3,116. Recent sale went at $8,857. That's the 54 Topps Hank Aaron, and that's green on the graph. Blue on the graph is his 58 Topps 2 years ago at $252. A recent sale at $700. And then purple on the graph, 1962 Topps Hank Aaron in a PSA 6. 2 years ago, $107. And recently at $499. So you can just see kind of everything has has moved up. It's been very inflationary over the last 2 years. As these cards have moved up. And of course, we're looking at a small sample size among three players. And there's so many different, vintage baseball players, Jackie Robinson being one that highly coveted here when people are collecting vintage baseball cards. So many other players too. But I thought this would be fun just to kind of throw out there. I was doing the research just to see, again, kind of where we were from a price perspective compared to a couple years ago, before, like right as the hobby was kind of exploding. Just to see have prices come back down? Have they settled to where they are? Are they way up? Just wanted to kind of see where it all was. So guys, thank you very much for joining me here for a vintage baseball card video. I want to keep this going. I won't be doing a lot of modern baseball stuff because guys, I'm just not into it. And I just don't know enough about it to speak intelligently, but I love talking about vintage cards, especially, vintage baseball. These are very cool sets. If this is something that's new to you, I would say, hey, check this out. See if there's anything, from a historical perspective. I think that even if you're not a big baseball person, just the historical relevance of these players, whether it be Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, Mickey Mantle, some of these other guys, Jackie Robinson, it's cool stuff. So check it out. Guys, have an amazing rest of your day. Stay healthy, stay awesome, and I will talk to you again later.